Now, they handed out loans to people who simply could not afford to repay. Today, the payday lender Wonga is handing out £220 million by writing off debts to 330,000 of its customers. The firm, which has already been criticised over its high interest rates and debt collection practices, said the need for the change was now real and urgent. The financial regulator said the rest of the industry was now on notice to lend affordably and responsibly. Our social affairs editor Jackie Long has this report.
Julia J has already had payback from Wonga. After taking out a loan to pay for 2 family funerals, things spiralled out of control. Her debt grew, and so did the pressure from the company to pay it back.
They were sending me 5 or 6 emails a day to my work email address, phone calls late at night, in the afternoon. You know, you'd maybe get sort of 4 or 5 phone calls a day telling me that it had to be repaid.
Julia, who doesn't want to be identified because her family didn't know the extent of her problem, took her case to the Financial Ombudsman Service. It upheld her claim that Wonga should never have lent her the money in the first place.
It was a fairly obvious decision that I was not coping well with money and there was no money left at the end of the month. I mean, you leave a credit footprint. They knew that I'd had a couple of loans and, you know, there was no flexibility within my salary at that time. So they should not have lent me any money, there's no two ways about it, but I was stupid to ask for it and they kept giving it to me.
Boiler needs a fix.
New school term.
Sports kids.
Interview.
High profile, bold, the promise of a quick fix for everyday money problems. Wonga quickly became a household name. It boasted of its secret sauce, a high-tech algorithm which meant they didn't give money to people who couldn't afford to pay it back. Today, evidence that they did exactly that to hundreds of thousands of its customers. Wonga has announced it will write off £220 million worth of debt owed by 330,000 of its customers. It will cost the company around £35 million, virtually wiping out last year's profit of £39.7 million. Wonga admitted today it is a company on a long road to recovery. Although its chairman, Andy Haste, promised a more open and transparent operation when he arrived here back in July, that openness hasn't extended to any broadcast interviews today. Instead, in a telephone briefing, he said the company needed real and urgent change. I asked him if he felt Wonga had treated customers shabbily or shamefully. He simply said we concentrated too much on growth and not enough on the needs of the customers. Kaylee McLean from Bournemouth is hoping she'll be one of the people whose debts are cleared. She borrowed £400 from Wonga to help pay off a string of other debts. After being diagnosed with a heart condition, she had to leave work, and she now owes more than £900.
Obviously, to me, it felt like the only way out of having to get another one to pay off everything else. I mean, it's always the way with everything. You get one thing, you have to get another to do this. In a way, I felt relieved that I was offered it so I could do it, but then after I got it into my account and I paid everything else, I kind of sat there and I cried because I just thought, I'm not going to be able to pay this back, the interest is going to go up. But when I saw the letter of how much the interest went up, I think I just cried for about 2 days.
With a Wonga loan, you choose how much you'd like to borrow and when you want to pay it back.
Wonga has promised, as well as paying out, to change the way it lends. But campaigners warned that there are still many lenders who have yet to change their ways.
No business model is viable if it depends on exploitation of vulnerable people. So there are lots of ways that people can get access to short-term credit and sort out their finances. The kind of behaviour we're seeing from short-term lenders that are setting a debt trap for people by giving them loans they can't possibly pay back is just not acceptable.
Wonga say they've gone back as far as they can to establish which customers should have debts cleared or interest repaid. But they are continuing to work with the regulator to see if they need to do more to redress any wrongs.